Okay, you have a whole bunch of pages in the budget, so
Sure.
it's going to be up to you to direct us to which page you wanna do first.
Okay, well, we can just kind of start at the beginning and go through. Page 42 is engineering. As far as this page goes, most things stayed the same year over year. The salaries went down a bit, obviously because we had 2 retirements. And in those retirements are buyouts, so that's why last year's budget was higher. We increased the travel and education, partially because we have 2 new engineers that have started with us, and I feel like it's important to get them as much training as we can, especially in the next year. Are there any questions on any of that?
Is that number based on a specific?
No.
Okay.
Mark, would any of that training lead to the potential to become PE at some point? Or I know there's a while they have to work before and all of that.
So one of the new engineers is qualified to sit for the FE, not for the PE.
Yeah, okay, what's the, I know what the professional engineer, but what is the F?
The FE is what you take once you either have your engineering degree or you have enough experience. You can sit for the FE. Once you've sat for that and passed it, then you have to gain your experience to sit for your PE. So that's really not typically covered under training, or we wouldn't pay for a class for somebody to do that. So no, not in particular.
Thanks.
So your dues and subscriptions go up based on the fact that you have new people
They got-
and
Yeah, so dues and subscriptions, a lot of that is for our drafting software, as well as our mapping software. We're starting to get into some more GIS systems,
okay.
so that's why that has gone up.
And both dues and supplies and contractual services were all cut in the executive budget from your request. The contractual services, are you concerned about that? I don't know what was in your request for that, but it's 0 now.
Yeah. Can't remember what we put in for that one.
Let's see here. I think some of the requests ended up going into, some of the requests ended up going into capital, I believe, because they were, do you remember what it was, Carol? It was,
For the contractual?
yeah,
Was it,
It shouldn't be capital, I would
Yeah.
think. That was
you had something that we had to move, it was equipment, it
Contractual.
was surveying equipment.
Yeah, but that was a lot of money in
This would probably be more personnel costs.
that. Yeah, maybe,
Can you get back to us on that?
yes, I can.
To go from a request to nothing is concerning?
Well, DES was $13.21.
Yeah,
Wasn't
but,
Am I reading that
yeah, 2022 was 5,000.
right? Mm-hmm.
not gonna wash and clean your vehicles?
You guys didn't wash your own truck?
What about the project manager for the Washington Street building?
Well, that project is wrapping up fairly quickly. We're not gonna be able to move until the spring, but they're kind of in more of the punch list phase of that. I don't wanna say it's done by any stretch, but there shouldn't be that much time left with that.
Why the delay to move in spring?
Just because now is one of the busier times for us.
Okay.
Yeah, we have fall pickup starts in a week and then snow season, so we don't want our mechanics moving during winter. The next section is building maintenance. Again, everything's kind of stayed around the same as it has been. This budget includes the maintenance mechanic that was approved previously this year. Anybody have any questions on that?
The natural gas request and the budget amount are drastically different, and everybody I'm sure has heard on the news and the radio and everything that natural gas costs are going way up. Is that enough to cover, would you say?
Yeah, I think currently we're well underneath that item, yeah.
We adjusted many of those based on kind of 5-year average costs, but I think we also heard that they were going down. Now they're saying,
30%.
right.
They're decreasing.
So we were very careful not to remove all of them, but use more of like a 5-year average.
Wanted to make sure it was
Yep.
acceptable.
Okay,
Next page 48 is 145 Steel Street. The salaries on that went up because of minimum hourly rate increase. That's why that's a little bit higher. And utilities are all about the same. Building maintenance, that's down from what we requested, just because, you know, we have a lot of overhead garage doors and that sort of thing, so anything like that breaks and that budget's gone pretty quick. Anybody have anything on that?
so stationery and office supplies looks like a new line item.
I think that was just very underfunded last year. I think we're over on that $300 from last year. So that's why we increased that.
No, I'm sorry, housekeeping supplies.
Oh, yeah, I think that a lot of that cost used to be carried by the central garage for some reason. And that's why, and especially with them moving, partway through next year, we wanted to get that, to make sure it's covered for our building as well.
We have a separate cleaning arrangement for the DPW offices. There's an actual individual that is employed to do that.
Right.
And so as mentioned, minimum wage has gone up, and so we've tried to continue on, but Mark had mentioned we were trying to pull some of those things out as the new building comes online.
Mark, what kind of equipment were you looking for with $350,000 and then it was cut to $15,000?
Where is that?
Yeah.
Line 200 equipment. You requested.
What page are you on?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm at 48.
50.
48.
Oh,
48.
you're done.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm 50. I jumped up there.
I got nervous.
He was on.
We'll get there.
Alright, we could go to 50 now.
It's one of those students.
Yeah, he's ahead. So that was, vehicles, that's the rollback and the record that are included. They moved them out of this account and put them into the capital.
The capital account.
Yeah, as, you know, as part of that.
So your part-time pay dropped considerably. You wanted 13.5, you only get 45, or, no, you wanted, oh, you asked me for 13.5, okay, never mind, looking at it differently.
Okay.
You're back on the other page.
Yeah.
I'm back on
Got
48.
it.
I'm
Back.
on 48.
Everybody go back.
Yes,
50.
yes.
When do we move to 50?
This is central garage. So you'll see between this page 50, and page 52, there's 2 sets of utilities. That's again because the mechanics do anticipate moving in the spring. So I believe we increased the fleet management to cover the expenses for the Washington Street facility. kind of the largest increase in this one, maybe not the largest, but one of the increases is building maintenance. Again, with so many overhead doors and big trucks moving around, they just get hit sometimes, and at $15,000, you have one accident and your whole budget for the year is gone. And especially with a new building, and make sure we have money to fix if something gets damaged in the building itself.
Mark, where can we see the salt costs from last year and projected?
From last year, I can get that for
I could be
you.
jumping on you.
Yeah,
that's
there
a
is-
lump.
There's a snow removal?
Yeah, there's a snow removal.
Mhm.
I think there's a snow and ice.
There is, but I thought it was just,
Page 90?
Yeah. So on page 90, the contractual services, that's the salt.
Okay.
Last
So-
year,
so I thought, where are we at with the salt brine then? That was supposed to reduce,
that's not coming in until this winter. And then it'll be installed once the mechanics are out of their space, because that's where it's going.
Yeah, that's what you were saying, it
Mhm.
may not be ready,
Yeah.
yeah.
potentially for the end of 2023.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I don't, it's, the equipment's not even here yet, so,
Right.
yeah.
but still potentially for the end, but,
Mhm.
now the snow removal salaries are lumped in with the, so the salt is the contractual service, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, correct.
And they considered last winter a light winter, but
Yeah.
salt is always going up pretty
Yeah,
good.
even in a light winter, I'm trying to
Yeah.
go from memory, but we spend like 350,000 on salt in a light winter,
Okay,
so.
And just so you guys are aware, the contractual services also includes around 38,000 for fuel, which would be gasoline and diesel. And then obviously we have a snow removal salaries that we reallocate to others.
sorry about jumping, you go back.
That's fair.
Whatever you
Any other questions on page 50, central garage?
Fuel, diesel, gas line, is that gonna get us through in 130? What's your request?
Yeah, we looked at that today and
Just
we're,
under 80 right
yeah,
now.
we're under like 80,000 right now, so yeah, that should be okay.
That's always a really tough one for every budget for us to try to figure out where that's gonna land. We've had a fairly good year overall with fuel costs.
Yeah, and I mean, you can look at 2021 and 2022, we didn't do anything probably drastically different, but just the price of fuel changes that item a lot. Page 52 is again utilities for the new building. We obviously had to estimate what we thought we would need down there, and then we'll have a pretty good idea by the end of the year. Next page, the next one we need is page 68, which is traffic control or the traffic division. They're they've kind of stayed the same as far as budget. At the bottom, they have $6,000 for traffic control equipment as they need, either replacement parts or, if they make it to the end of the year, a lot of times they'll buy a larger unit with that.
Is this for the older traffic lights in terms of, other than what's on Washington Street currently, are these all the other lights, the traffic lights that are the old style?
So, you mean the 6,000?
Yes.
Um,
When you're talking about the traffic light, the parts replacements and all that, that's the
They wouldn't,
They will not?
no, when that project first started, you know, a year or 2 years ago, I know the traffic department and Jeff reached out to the state, cause they used to give us their
Yeah,
old
same, we'll take
control.
them, yeah.
Yeah, but they wouldn't let us have them
What
this
is
time.
their theory? Because if they're just going to
Yeah.
landfill or
Yeah.
whatever, you'd think replacing parts in an area where they're not coming in providing the funding to replace all the lights with the newer style.
Well, even if they sold them, they
It
would
would
make them
make,
enough.
I know.
Yeah.
It would make sense to give them to communities
Yeah.
to, you know, until you can afford newer
Mhm.
versions.
That's a
It's
shame.
just-
Yeah.
It's appalling. Okay, sorry, just makes sense to recycle and reuse.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We're buying cheap.
Just that, what's the difference in price between the newer style, the idea, and the old ones?
No,
What does, so if something goes in one of these old style, how much does it cost you to replace it?
Well, the issue with the old style is some of them you can't get parts, so you have to replace everything that's in that
Yeah.
box.
With the newer style?
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
what's the newer style? If these lights, because I'm going back to around Purcell School, and that light hasn't worked forever.
Yeah.
And it would have been ideal to get parts that you could fix it, at least for now. But if you can't do that, if it did come down to buying a brand new light for any area in the city, what would it cost to replace it?
I don't think it's the light on that, is it, Mark? I said, is it the underground wiring that
Yeah,
Jeff had told me?
there's a different issue there. It's not
Yeah.
powered properly. or
It's not
something.
powered properly, and the same with the one in front of Fletcher School. People wanna know why that's running cycling on weekends.
Yeah,
And I haven't seen it do it lately, but I got complaints on
does.
that. Yeah, okay, so the road needs to be dug up and new sensors put down. And they're waiting to do the
Okay.
road.
okay,
Red,
so it's
yeah.
that versus it's
Yeah,
just not the light or.
It's in the ground,
Really?
the sensor in the ground,
I did
just
not
that.
know that.
Yeah, so I do get complaints on that.
Well, I've been at that light and there's no traffic.
Yeah, and you
Sit
wonder what
there
the heck-
waiting
yeah.
and waiting, there's
Yeah.
nobody there. Okay.
That's the deal on
Well,
both
if
of
you
them.
get an idea, I just be curious,
Well,
what is
just-
the cost to, you know, looking down the road for the city, what's the cost?
We have a resolution tonight to buy 17
I
controllers
seen that.
through
Okay.
chips, and they're 4,700 each. And that's only one part of.
And that's a controller, that's not the whole
No.
fixture.
No,
or
that's
whatever.
none. That's just it goes into that metal box
Into
that you
the
never
box.
see.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's, I'm asking, what's the whole thing
Yeah, yeah.
going to cost?
Well,
Okay.
for safety, it's a big thing up there.
Oh, I know, well, that's what I'm, you know, and I know the county's looking at Baker Street, but it's like in the meantime, you
Yeah,
get
they
calls
can't
all the
cross.
time about the kids crossing and
Well,
traffic and.
I think the Safer Streets money may be able to be used for that, right, Eddie? Do you know if they will do that?
The Safer Streets for All is gonna be for design, planning and design, but the
Okay.
second round that we could apply for would be for that.
For
yes.
hardware? Yeah, okay. Well, that would be an idea.
Okay. Sorry, Mark.
That's okay. So anything else on traffic control? The next page you're gonna want is 82, streets administration. So for this one, the salaries went up because we moved the street and sewer supervisor into this category, just to make this and parks, the way that they're structured, similar. Because parks has parks manager and parks supervisor, so this now has senior civil engineer and street and sewer supervisor in it. So you'll see some of the categories have gone up, but that's because they came from another section. Anything on that?
Well, again, on the contractual services under 2021, and then it goes to blanks, what does that essentially mean?
I think 2021 had I don't know what 2021 was, we can certainly pull that for you, but it may have just been applied to that account, and there's no contractual services budgeted for that line.
Okay.
Under maintenance of streets, This is all of our streets workers. Contractual services for this one is any street project that we do that isn't fall under CHIPS funding. So it might just be some storm sewer work, or it might be different types of road treatments that we do that aren't covered under CHIPS. And all the rest of the numbers are similar to years past. Now we're going, so page 88 is a new fund. It's not a new fund, that's the wrong one.
New line item.
New line item, yeah. It's for the Riverwalk. So in a lot of the other things that we do, say ice removal or street sweeping, we have salary pullouts for those, so that way we know what we're spending in those different categories. And that's part of what this is. So we wanna know how much time we're spending to maintain the Riverwalk. As well as we'd like 10,000 to specifically use for Riverwalk projects.
So what is the equipment then?
That's the. Do you remember what that is, Dave? No. I don't know, I'll have to get that.
Okay.
Is it mowers?
Tables, benches,
Oh,
amenities,
ameni-
tables, benches, garbage cans, that kind of stuff. Those ones we have out there now are getting close to 20 years.
The next page 89 is a salary pass-through for maintenance of bridges.
Sorry to interrupt. So you'd asked about the Riverwalk, just to confirm. So we had, as Dan had mentioned, the benches, so maintenance and then additional planting materials. So any additional planting that needs to occur on the Riverwalk.
Mhm.
My apologies, sorry.
And then page 90 is our snow and ice control. Same thing, it's pass-through for salaries, and then the salt and fuel, like we had talked about before.
Speaking of snow removal, I know the school district had purchased a couple of these sidewalk snow plows with the ARPA fund.
Mhm.
I know we had, put it out there, tried to get some seasonal part-time employees to operate those. What's the status of those going forward for this winter?
So I think the plows have been delivered to the
Yeah.
schools, and the summer help, or not summer help, but the temporary help has been signed up. So we have 2 people who will operate those this
Okay.
winter.
So they'll all be utilized this winter if needed?
Yep.
And where are they located now? I know that the superintendent was wondering,
They're sitting in our shop.
They're
in your shop,
Yeah,
they were up there for a while.
Yeah, they're down at 155 now.
Okay, he mentioned it.
Page 93 is recreation administration. Again, that is the parks manager and parks supervisor, and then we requested a full-time parks operation assistant who would be primarily located in their building.
What would be the function of the
Dan?
Recreation program, handling all of our rentals, helping out with the leagues that we have going on and ones we'd like to get started, with the events, answer the phone, help with billing. Me and Matt spend at least 7 of our 8-hour days out in the field, so there's really nobody in the office. And we're just.
Yeah, no, I just didn't know what, since it was.
Yeah, it also gives another place for someone to go and get a pavilion permit or a field. They can probably, well, you know, if it gets approved, we'll figure out how that works, but we'll probably still make that available at 145 Steel, but it could be available for that at Parks Department as well.
Right now, does it go to the clerk's office or?
No, we do it in our
You
office.
do it in your
Yeah.
office?
There was one funded in the 2023 budget.
But it was a stipend.
That's what I was wondering.
So we'd funded the position in 2023. We did not end up filling it, we did the stipend instead, for Kelly.
Okay.
Just given the salary and the time it was gonna take, I think, to try to fill it and what it looked like. This year, we're proposing to change that to a Parks Operation Assistant. So it has a similar title, to what they have on the DPW side, and follows an already established step schedule.
Does that change Kelly's position at all, or no?
I believe Kelly would be continuing to support in some of that role because she'll have to train, and do some of that work as well.
So the other pay, is this large increase due to your part-time snowplows, or what are we,
Other pay?
was 16,750
No, it's
and we're
30.
going to 30,150?
I don't know, I can find out.
What's that? Rex. Where are we on? Is that you got it?
It's Recreation
Recreation.
Administration, yeah, other pay, overtime, part-time, so.
Should say on, I believe that included, we moved the stipend over from Kelly to the Parks. So there was a stipend, for Kelly, and that is now in the Rex admin instead of under, hers. So if you take a look on page 93, it shows the breakdown of that other type of pay. And I think there was an additional, Yep.
1,000.
Yep.
Okay.
The next section is page 96. The park salaries went down, because we moved the summer help, so summer help used to be spread across about 3 categories. For the Parks Department, they were somewhere in here, somewhere in summer youth program, and then somewhere under the stadium. So we took all of the summer help out of the parks salaries and moved them to the summer youth program, which we'll see later is why that line item increased. In this section, we've also requested 2 additional parks laborers be hired. The equipment line, we requested 120,000. I don't know, I guess that's not right. From last year, instead of buying equipment out of the 200 account, we moved that equipment to the capital account, I believe was right.
Yes.
Yep.
So you said under park salaries, these numbers do include the 2 new positions, is that correct?
Correct, yeah.
and you will see that on page 97
Mhm.
as well, which is a summary of all positions.
So you asked for 3 and got 2,
Yes, correct.
Is that correct?
so went from 105 to 70.
And of course, they're seasonal, right?
No, these would be full-time positions.
Full-time.
Yeah.
Okay, cause at one time we were talking seasonal.
Mhm.
That never, a lot of people not interested in.
Seasonal is harder and harder for us to find.
I know.
Mhm.
I'm assuming you have a retiree, is that right?
Yes, yeah, right.
Harrison.
Yeah.
We're looking to fill that position now.
I see that.
This is last day Friday.
The next, page 98, is tree maintenance. And that's your account we use for any time we're trimming or cutting trees. It's a salary pass-through as well from the Parks Department. Page number 99 is the Summer Youth Employment Program. So this one you'll see went up quite a bit, and that's just because we moved existing positions from the Parks Department page to this Summer Youth Employment page. The only other place that Summer Youth still exists on its own is in the stadium, because we try and keep all those separate. Page 100 is the Summer Youth Playground, or Summer Playground Program, which we haven't been able to run for the last few years because we haven't been able to find enough people to run it.
Yeah.
I think 2 years ago, not this summer, but the summer before, we had one or two parks that we ran, but this year we didn't run any.
Yeah,
But we'd like to continue doing at least some of that.
That was my first job.
What was that?
Law school.
You wanna come back?
Yeah,
I
it
didn't
just
think about that.
doesn't pay very well.
Take a pay cut.
Play games, kick balls, yeah, that'd be great. Wow.
On page 102 is City Rec Baseball Program. It's an increase just because we're trying to get more interest and provide more materials to teams that maybe can't get them themselves. Page 103 is the stadium. Again, the costs there are kind of the same as they have been over the past few years. We have some capital requests for some items at the stadium, including hot water tank and things like that.
yeah, that's what these other supplies are. I think the furnace went in the locker room or something.
That just got
That
replaced.
got replaced.
Yeah.
We already did that. That would be in this budget.
Okay.
We did one of the water tanks last year, there's actually two on the property, both about the same size.
And I mean, other supplies and services are, you know, spraying the field and fertilizer and that kind of
Yeah.
stuff as well.
The materials, we redid the visitor locker room last winter, new paint, new fixtures. We're looking to do the same in the home locker room this year, weather permitting.
I think the capital requests were front mower, electric water tank, and stadium light replacement.
104 is,
Excuse me, on the stadium light, there's an account for that?
it was in the
Special account.
capital requests.
No, but I mean, there's money set aside somewhere? Yes,
So,
there is a special, How much is in there?
75.
70, right?
Mhm.
That'll pay for.
Not
Some-
enough.
the engineering. Yeah.
Not enough.
I think the current estimate is 350,000 for stadium light replacement, but I think we've got our engineers trying to do a full scope of that at this point, just to better understand that.
We were hoping we could just switch everything over to LEDs, but that's not the case. We need all new fixtures, everything else to come close to that.
104 is the Allen Park, the old Allen Park ice rink. I think we fix minor things when things happen out there.
We stay on top of the fire alarm system, any water line issues, electrical issues, we take care of. And also provide cleaning services up there as well. We still do use some of the rink for storage, but very minimal.
Page 105 is band concerts and band shell concerts. So with 3,100, I think we can sponsor three
Yes.
concerts. And then we look for alternate funding for the rest of the series.
We've been able to get just over half of the concerts funded from the outside, and then we funded 3 from the inside. And then there's added costs that go along with it, running the Porter John for a couple months, things like that.
There's usually about 6, 7.
Seven concerts, 7 or 8.
Weather permitting.
It's always the case.
Page 107, the Historical Society, that's the Fenton.
I believe they're coming in. Is that right, Jen? Did you hear from them?
Yeah, we can contact.
Okay. So we can skip past that.
I already told them that as well. They didn't know the date, so they didn't know a month ago.
We have some figures from them that we're gonna send out tomorrow. I didn't wanna send it to. we
No,
don't have
that's
any
okay, but
today, so-
I did tell Jane that, the meeting date, cause she wasn't sure, so
Yeah.
I told her at the last meeting.
Page 108 is the historic markers. We typically try and do at least one of those a year.
How many are we up to now?
I think this is gonna be number 80 on Friday. 2 o'clock on Friday, they're putting a new historical marker in front of the Prendergast Library on West Fifth Street. Be right in front of the old entrance into there.
Oh, I saw the pole there.
Yep, it's right in front of where on the building it says it was erected in 1890.
They're gonna put one in front of the high school next year?
It's gonna take some time to make that, we're trying to get the portrait on one side, the letters on the other.
Page 110 is storm sewers. So this is a salary pass-through that we use for whenever we do storm sewer work, as well as we purchase any storm sewer pipe or anything out of the contractual services in this account.
Have you targeted any particular areas for this, or is this just to have on hand in case?
Yeah, so when we do street projects, we'll do, if the storm sewer is in bad shape or old clay tile or something, we'll always replace that, and yeah.
We did allocate 75,000 for slip lining,
Yes, yeah, and the
in
capital,
capital,
yeah.
which is the piping.
Mhm.
They've been working around, they were, Halleck and Ellis in that area.
Mhm.
3 weeks ago, maybe 4 weeks ago.
Page 111 is street cleaning. Similar to pass-through, it's something that we do. We try and keep track of it.
You mean you break it up for when you run the sweeper, right?
Just so we know that specific activity, how much we use it. Some of these accounts haven't been used a lot in the past, as far as like actual, the accounting part of it. With our new system, I'm hopeful that we're gonna be able to keep track a little bit closer, so we'll know exactly how much we do street sweeping and storm sewer and that kind of stuff. In that same vein, the leaf collection is a new fund. That's so we can better track how much we actually spend to pick up leaves around the city.
Old fund, new name.
Yes,
Yep.
yeah.
On 112, the lead collection, there's 5,000 in equipment, it's not listed down below, do you know what that's for?
No, but I can find out. It's probably for the equipment, the brakes and stuff they use when they're doing that specific task. Yeah, leaf blowers, that kind of thing. But I'll make sure.
Didn't seem like a lot, that was an actual equipment.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
probably just miscellaneous.
Yeah, there was no actual description in the original
Yeah.
budget we received, so Mark, we can get those now.
Mhm.
we contract with on the contractual services?
I think sometimes we use we contract trucking, is that true, for leaves? I don't know, I'll find that out too. Yeah.
You don't, yeah.
Just to be aware of that contractual line, 10,000 is contractual miscellaneous expense and 10,000 is fuel.
So where was that fuel last year? This is a new line item,
I don't think we broke out fuel for,
just in the DPW street
Yes.
maintenance.
yeah. Yeah, I think this is the first year. I know Marcus wanted to make sure that we separated those out so there's a better understanding of the overall costs for it, which is much appreciated.
It's a big, I mean, it takes, the streets department a month at least to go around the whole city, one
Oh,
time.
yeah.
So it's a very large expense.
It is, yeah.
So as a reminder not to forget to rake your leaves.
Yeah.
And I
They
did.
start on the 30th.
I did last year, I didn't come back.
And
Yeah.
remind people not to do it into the street,
Yeah.
because when it gets wet, it gets slick, and
Yeah.
you can't stop, and people seem to like to shovel them right into the street.
Can you go over the capital projects too?
And then any of the equipment you want to talk about.
The page 130 kind of starts our capital projects, and I'll just kind of hit on some of those. So replacing the engineering robotic total station is on page 130. That's our surveying equipment that we use that allows one person to go out and do just about any surveying that they need to do. Our equipment is about 15 years old now, and it's getting pretty beat up. It's ready to be replaced for sure.
The equipment that you have now, does it take more than one person to do that?
We would be basically replacing, the idea would be replace in kind. We would do, if it gets funded, we'll, find out if there are better options out there now. But this is a cost to replace in kind with
Okay.
newer equipment.
Basically, the heads on them are up to date, late model, you're saying? Yeah.
Yeah, we still use it, our engineer's out using it this fall to survey streets, but it just, everything's just a little bit slower. It's like a computer,
Yeah.
the handheld runs a version of Windows Mobile that doesn't even exist anymore. So you have to do a crazy workaround to even get any information from it to your computer. So, and that's not gonna get better, it's just gonna get worse and worse and worse, so. But it allows one person to go out and do the job of what used to be 2 or 3, really.
I've seen private contractors, they got nice ones.
That was recommended to be funded in the executive budget.
Page 131 is the North Main Street retaining wall. That's just that section of wall that is up against the cemetery as you come into town. 120 probably wouldn't do the whole thing, but it would do a start, or at least the worst sections. 132 is the relocation of the Middlebrook culvert. That is a piece of pipe that has failed twice now in the last 3 years, I think, once this summer. We currently have an engineering firm working on a plan to put in a concrete box culvert. The worst thing about this culvert is it goes right underneath a building. So while it was open, we had our crews go in and do temporary patches everywhere that they could, but it's a liability that we have a pipe that exists underneath the building that has failed before. We've applied for Bridge New York grants for it before and been denied twice because a vast majority of it runs underneath parking lots. Yeah. So it runs basically from the section we were going to replace runs from Water Street to the river near St. Susan's. But this same culvert runs all the way up to the hospital, or that street is there, that I can't remember all of a sudden.
Where all the flooding occurred early this summer.
Well, all the flooding occurred everywhere.
So how was it ever allowed when they did it?
Yeah.
I'm just curious, you know, that you allow a building to be built over. I mean, I realize this is
Yeah.
probably nobody in this room maybe,
No, probably not.
but I would hope.
Yeah.
but-
No, I mean, part of that is, you know, making sure that we have the easements, especially for these big pipes, that we know where they are and we know how to maintain them, and we can keep an eye on, you know, when plans or something come across somebody's table, say, oh, there's a pipe there, we have an easement, you have to know that. Yeah, so it's one thing I would like to do in the next few years is make sure that we have those easements, get them all together and get the ones that we don't have.
Were you aware of it? Because I'm just thinking there's been talk about development of that building or trying to do things that they had actually dug, that they had known that there was that culvert.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I haven't,
Probably not, right?
you
So
probably
they
not.
dug it and-
Mark, on regular previous page, any help from New York State DOT on that portion of Route 60 North Main Street on the cemetery wall?
Yeah, we haven't reached out to them. I don't think that they would be very interested, to be honest.
Like it's a truck or something.
Yeah,
I was gonna ask about the steps there, I know they're not utilized anymore, or do those belong to the cemetery, do those need to be removed?
that would be part of that project. We would determine all of that stuff. I don't know off the top of my head.
I
It's
just didn't know if it was, we were the retaining wall and the steps belong to the cemetery, or?
probably not. If it's in the right of way, it's probably our responsibility. Just like if you have steps between a curb and a sidewalk, I mean, it's property owner's responsibility to an extent, but if we pull it out, we put it back.
There's no gate, it's all.
Yeah, we would just remove it as part of that project.
That's right.
They used that in 1920.
And we would work with the cemetery to make sure anything that we do there, that they understand.
That's not even Lakeview Cemetery.
It's what?
That's not even part of Lakeview
Cemetery.
That's the Catholic
Is it the Catholic?
Holy,
Is that, cross?
Holy Cross Cemetery. That's the old Catholic St. Pete Cemetery in that section right there. So. Just so you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What, you're trying to-
Billy and I have a
Or
little-
has
Yeah.
it-
Just be there. We're the cemetery board people, but that's,
Good luck getting it from the church.
yeah, I mean,
Uh,
Jeff used to always get scared because I'd ask him about, why can't you just, those big chunks there don't do really anything.
No.
I mean, can't they just be removed?
I would agree with him that I would also be nervous about removing a part of a wall.
Well, no, he was worried that there were
Bodies.
bodies in there,
Very well.
Okay, you
Much
will
different
find-
concern.
Yeah, that's a much different concern.
If we have a big flood, we'll find out.
I said, just get a back one there, think about it.
Page 133 is the stairs behind Foundry Alley. They're in terrible shape. We continue to block them off, and people just keep moving the barricades. So, the next three, 134, 135, 136, are our engineering vehicles. These are vehicles that can't be funded, can't be replaced under chips. I know we've started to do some of that, but they don't have a long enough lifespan. You have to have a 10-year lifespan on a piece of equipment. So those are in desperate need of replacement. Page 137 is the Carolina Tiffany culvert. That's a big box culvert that runs from the Buffalo Street Dam to past Tiffany and out of town. It's a wide kind of shallow box culvert for a large section of it, and it's full of gravel. So it greatly reduces the amount of water that it can carry, making flooding more likely. And it's just a large process to get that cleaned out. Or 138 is Chattacoin channel maintenance. That would be the dredging and removal of the sediment in the ditches along Jones and Gifford and along Jackson Taylor Park. We've been working for about 2 years now towards getting a DEC permit to be able to take that soil out. In doing that, the DEC informed us that we had to have soil tests because our plan was to dig it out and then leave it on site. But soil tests came back that a large amount of it has to go to landfills. To the point where this 500,000 would just be a start on this project. It's about estimated about $400,000 in just tipping fees. That's not digging it out, that's not getting it there, that's just to dump it at the dump. So
Is that because it used to be the old city dump?
it's contaminated with a lot of different
Yeah.
things. I think there's 8 canals, I wanna say, and 2 of them are clean enough that you can leave the material there. The rest of it has to be hauled away or disposed of in a different way.
Over the little bridges over the,
Mhm.
that water does look like the color of your shirt. Cause I just went through there, but is that something that, I know that Ms. Swan and the Chautauqua Watershed has been working kind of in that area. Similar things and taking,
You know, we've been working with an engineering company to kind of assess that and come up with a plan for that project.
something like the DEC.
To go through the permitting for the
Right.
DEC, and that's where they've gotten, they submit something and then they get more requirements coming back.
Has he looked at that? Do you know if he's
That one?
yeah.
No, I'm not sure.
Mark, you might wanna add the Clifton Street culvert right at the city line. How the highway 430's dumping immense amounts of gravel into the river.
Where is
But it's on our side of the city, the city line's right there at Clifton.
Just behind Schultz there?
Pardon me?
By Schultz down the hill.
Right by the new marina.
Yeah.
Lawson Boat and Motor, right where the sanitation pump station is for the BPU. It's closing the river off. I brought it to Twan's attention, I brought it to DEC attention. But in your deliberations and working with river maintenance, you might wanna have somebody look, it's a delta that's 50 feet out into the middle of the river, it's quite a navigation hazard.
Who did you say you think is dumping?
At the state, all those state ditches from Clifton remember last year or 2 years ago, Arby's parking lot collapsed, there's a big drainage pipe under that, and then it comes under the highway. But all that road ditch left and right of, say where the Ira Spring Legion post is, all that gravel and stuff from the highway comes right down and fills the river.
I've been down there too, cause I know DNS Glass
Yeah.
and, Jamestown Roofing. They said they always flood
Mm-hmm.
when the water runs down and gets
Yeah.
several.
I believe that section, if it's right at the end of Clifton there, I think that is part of that project. I think that section of river is part of that, yeah.
I appreciate you looking.
Page 139 is replacement of retaining wall underneath a house. That one there, it's a large section of wall, and 2 sections on either side of the house are twisting, so they're failing. After looking through deeds and all kinds of things, it was determined that the wall is definitely owned by the city. So we need to do something about that.
Whose idea was that?
1928.
Yeah.
That's up.
A long time ago, yeah.
Are you here, Tom?
It's a
You
couple
want a
years.
historical marker.
I knew that was coming.
And then after that, I'll kind of run quick through some vehicles. There's a 140 is a wrecker. 141 is a rollback recovery truck. And then I think there's 2 dump trucks and plows. 144 is a skid steer for the Parks Department. And a new mower on 145, Parks Department. 146 is replace the decking at McRae. It's a currently it's a recycled material and it's just not holding up. The Parks Department is down there quite regularly fixing holes in it. When you walk on it, you can actually feel it kind of flex. So that needs to be redecked. We think that the foundation underneath is solid, but the decking is failing more and more.
Can I still run on it, or is it safe?
You sure you can.
It might drip.
Watch your ankles.
It might drip on the board.
Stick up your feet.
Yeah. 147 is the lights at the stadium. Again, we got a price that was around $300,000 for that project. We're also getting prices from structural engineers to evaluate those towers. So before we were to put $300,000 worth of lights on 50-plus-year-old towers, we want to make sure those are structurally sound as well. Number 148 is the walking trail, Allen Park. 149 is a new loader for parks. 150 is a dump truck for parks, and then 151 is continued maintenance for the band shell, painting, and it's often vandalized, so just having a fund to be able to fix that as needed.
Are there cameras on there? Are there cameras down there? I don't feel up to
And then the last page, the 160, the capital fund. So in there, the surveying equipment, the slip lining. Slip lining, in the city we have a lot of old corrugated metal pipes that were put in 40 years ago or so, 30, 40 years ago, and the bottoms have really started rusting out on a lot of them. They have a method where you can, for lack of a better term, you take a kind of like a balloon into the old pipe, you blow it up, and then it cures, and it finishes solid. So we have a lot of that corrugated metal pipe around the city. So part of this would be to start to eat away at that. 575 for vehicles. There's a $200,000 sidewalk fund, sidewalk repair fund.
Well, 575 is for DPW projects and fleet.
But yeah, sorry, vehicles and projects. Down towards the bottom, there's a $15,000 for the stadium capital. I'll tell Randy it's on.
We'll blow it up on a large size paper. I'll make a note to do that. Sorry about that.
The eye doctors don't even make it this small.
This is really a test, Randy.
Yeah, I know.
Can you pass?
I'm looking
Should
at
you be
kids,
driving?
you got the same thing. I'm like,
Yeah,
you read the same thing.
and I can read it. The cheaters.
Then Parks Department, there's $200,000 for vehicles and projects, and $15,000 for trees.
We thought Jeff was bad.
Sorry.
Quick question about the ice arena. What is it being used for now, other than storage? And what are the long-term plans, goals, objectives of that building? I know we're not putting much into it for the budget, but it seems like it's just sitting there and.
No, it's leased.
It's
It's
legal.
leased right now to the Frewsburg Soccer Club, and then they let other clubs come in there. There's been batting cages, things like that, so youth sports mostly. They pay all the utility bills. What we have in our budget is for above and beyond that kind of stuff. We get broken windows, something malfunctions, in there. We had to put a new alarm system through FSC in there because ours was old last year. So, things like that. I think the lease is still good for another 2 years right now. I don't think we'd have problems filling that space.
It is considered parkland, so any type of alienation of it requires us to figure out where else we were going to make park.
I mean, like the stadium. That was sarcastic.
Anybody have anything else?
Mark, on the revenue side, chips and Mark's are selling funds, can you give me a percentage of what that is for your overall budget?
So I don't think we put chips in the budget, correct me if I'm wrong. But I have a number for.
I have a revenue line item of $1.5 billion, almost $1.6 billion, for State Highway 8.
Oh, okay.
That was it.
It has to be in the budget.
Yeah.
Yes, that is chips,
That is
that is
chips.
what is going to be available in 2024,
So it's
unless
not a
they
very
increase
big
it.
percentage.
That's not just chips, that's combined chips, emergency winter, recovery, and paved New York,
Pave and-
which is for potholes.
And then there's five different, I can't remember the things.
Sources.
Sources, yeah, thank you. Yeah, 5 different sources that it comes from, yeah.
I was hoping it'd be more.
It's actually up.
Yeah,
Oh, actually.
I can get you the number, and make sure.
We would normally plan around 700,000 in projects, and so obviously 1.5 is a lot more.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's it.
All right,
Nice job, Mike.
thank you.
Yeah, it's great.
You know, a lot of pages.
Yeah.
Good job. Did you want to talk at all about any of the equipment?
No, but- I handed
You
out.
all have a sheet, I think.
Yeah, I handed out equipment,
Yeah.
and basically the red numbers and the red equipment is stuff that is past its useful life. So it just gives you an idea of how much of our equipment still needs to be replaced. Yes, we've started to buy some equipment through chips, but there's no way chips could ever cover everything that we would really need to have our vehicles up to date.
Sidewalk plows, I thought we bought some of those.
We did, 3 of them.
Probably is.
They're a year old now.
2 of them.
Yeah.
No, 3 altogether then.
Yeah, there's still showing an 85 and a 79 model.
That's because they are,
But yeah, we have them, they still need replaced again. Still old, right?
How many do we have total?
The DPW has 2 right now, and then there's 2 from the school district. So depending on how that agreement, plays out with the school, system at the end of our agreement, we, are down to basically 2, and, the older of the 2 needs a lot of repairs put into it right now, so
So we, the city, when I say we, the city, we don't have any new ones.
we have the, let's see
Yeah,
here.
we bought one.
We bought one.
2020, we got a 2021 that was purchased, and then we're sitting on a 2000, it's the next newest one that the city owns, and then the school district had bought those 2 other ones that they just took delivery of this past year.
Yeah,
The 2021 is called the
It's a print off.
Okay.
Yes,
right.
and same thing as with the school
They
district.
don't, they're not bombardiers anymore.
So how are we doing on our replacement of vehicles that Pat's program, Pat had worked really hard on? When things are more value to replace them than dragging them out, how are we doing on that?
That's a catch-22. He had a lot of the trucks, management trucks were like on a 2-year replacement rotation. The problem is when we hit COVID, a lot of the vehicles availability became scarce. We went from, replacing a pickup truck for $2,000 or $3,000 to when Pat looked into it last year before he had departed, we were looking at over $8,500 per pickup truck. To do 5 or 6 trucks, we were somewhere between $40,000 and $50,000, and it got to the point where it's like, how do you justify that cost? To replace those trucks for that type of money.
So basically, you're saying we're not really looking at that anymore?
We're gonna look at it again this year, but we're not currently doing it, no.
I think we're waiting for some of those prices to stabilize.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you too, on those Ford Transits, both very rusty. Are you looking at different kinds of vehicles? Because I was going to say, experience, everybody I know who's got a Ford Transit, either that one or the other that's a passenger, is having nothing but trouble with the bottom rusting out. And I don't understand how the manufacturer does not understand for some in a climate like ours, that that's going to be a problem.
Yeah, we've had the brakes fail on, we had brakes fail once here, this year.
People are leasing them to get rid of them in 2 years because there's such a headache about the rusting. So I was going to encourage you to look at different.
Yes, we will.
Okay, because I thought, they're not reliable for rusting.
Okay, anybody have anything else? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Chris. Packet, okay. Maybe new fleet manager? Well, almost a year probably, yeah.
They're all aluminum. Yeah.
Not ours. I'll double check, but I'm pretty sure.
That's a big.
Yeah, no, it's,
So I'd already mentioned that this Friday, there's a historical marker being put up in front of the Prendergast Library at 2 o'clock. We also have our Halloween Riverwalk Treat and Trail Saturday night from 5 to 7. Right now, we've got 20 confirmed vendors, whether that be local businesses, unions, city employees, or different organizations throughout the city. Christmas tree and decorating for Christmas, it's right around the corner. It's gonna be happening here in the next couple of weeks, so.
One donated?
Yep, yep, down on James Street, right across from the college. Thanks, have a good night.
You waited through all on Saturday.
I know, he could have did that first.
I think they wanted him for parks too.
Yeah, I think so.
He was in a good news line.
Mark covers this stuff.
Yeah, he did.
This is just our informational stuff.
I think so.
So next week is police and fire.
Okay, I guess we're ready to go. I didn't know if he was gonna present anymore, but it's not. We'll call this work session to order. The clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Sheldon?
Here.
Brackman?
Here.
Karuba?
Present.
Reynolds?
Present.
Faulkner, you're
Present.
full of it tonight. Edwin, here, Deversa,
Here.
Russell,
Here.
and President Knowles.
Here. We got 3 presents and 6 here's, okay.
It's like Christmas.
It's like Christmas. All right, at this time, anyone would like to address the council, please give your name and address and limit your remarks to 5 minutes. Is there anyone that would like to speak tonight? Okay? No one's gonna,
I just didn't get a chance to talk at the housing meeting and I had a couple questions. I just was curious if the house on the corner of Willard and Allen was on that demo list, because I didn't get a chance to see it.
And I was gonna ask that same question, cause I
It's-
tried
it-
to ask
it-
that,
yeah.
I don't know if that's 319 Willard, but I.
It's 103 Willard,
Yeah, then it's not on the list.
and I just feel that it looks like it's dangerous. Like, I drove by it the other day and the porch looks like it's gonna collapse, and, you know, I don't know if it's on the list, but I think that it should be looked at as maybe emergency demo. And I also wanted to talk about, the leaves and the tree limbs obstructing signs. And I've talked about this several times, and I've noticed in several other cities that it's like that too. I don't understand why it's something that isn't a priority. I noticed the last one, there's a really bad one on on Washington Street when you come over the bridge. There's a streetlight sign that has been obstructed by tree limbs for probably about 3 years. The leaves do come, they do go, but I wish Dan Stone was here, because I really do wish that it would be a priority put on the city's list to try, it makes the city look dirty, I think. You have people coming over the bridge that don't live here. There's semi trucks that come over the bridge, and that streetlight sign could be a potential lifesaver, and it's obstructed. There's also a streetlight out there right on Forest Avenue.
Overhead street light.
Yeah, no, just the black ones with the clear. But as a Lyft driver and as someone that drives the city a lot, I think that it's potentially harmful to continue this throughout every year. You can't see, I think it's Lakin or Catlin off of Fairmount, you can't even see the street sign. Most of the time, I mean, Mark did very well, you know, getting the stop signs uncovered, but, you know, this is something that I've complained about every year for the last 4 years. So I would really like to see it be done, you know, in the beginning of that time when the leaves first start to come out. Thank you.
thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to address the council? Seeing none, we'll move on to our committees. Tammy, you want to start with finance, or do that first?
Sure. So we have 6 resolutions. The first one, whereas a donation was made by the Getty Foundation, Community Foundation, Sheldon Foundation, and Jamestown Renaissance Corporation for 55 trash receptacles to be designated to use throughout the downtown area in the city of Jamestown. And resolved that the city of Jamestown hereby accepts the donation, and be it further resolved that the Jamestown City Council hereby extends its appreciation and gratitude on behalf of the citizens of the city of Jamestown to the Gebby Foundation, Community Foundation, Sheldon Foundation, and the Jamestown Renaissance Corporation for their generous donation.
What was the value of that?
I don't know that I ever saw a value. I know there's 55 receptacles. Is it on Dan's, the actual value, by chance?
It is not, but we can try to get that for you. I think Dan requested us go through. I don't know, Mark, if you have anything on it.
No, I don't know the value.
We can get it for you.
We'll find out.
Resolution number 2, whereas a donation was made by the Eastside Fellowship Club to be designated for use at the new Veterans Park in the city of Jamestown in the amount of $10,000 and no cents. Resolved that the city of Jamestown agrees to the following stipulations with regards to this donation. All monies will be held into a special fund. Funds will only be used for Veterans Park located between Harding Avenue and West Third Street. Fund projects must be approved by the Jamestown Veterans Commission Chair, George Spitali, Mark Retzer, Acting Director of Public Works, and Dan Stone, Jamestown Parks Department. And the donated funds will not go into the general fund account. Resolved that the City of Jamestown hereby accepts the donation, and be it further resolved that the City of Jamestown City Council hereby extends its appreciation and gratitude on behalf of the citizens of the City of Jamestown to the Eastside Fellowship for their generous donation, and to George Spitali for the continued push to improve Veterans Park. Resolution number 3 is that fire investigator Sean Schilling, Adam Aiken, Ryan Saunders, and Detective Rex Goot be hereby authorized to attend the New York State Office of Fire Prevention and Control Fire Arson Investigation Seminar as conducted by the New York State Academy of Fire Science, located at 600 College Avenue, Montour Falls, New York, beginning Tuesday, November 14th, 2023, and concluding Thursday, November 16th, 2023, with fees and expenses paid pursuant to Section 77B of the General Municipal Laws of the State of New York. And resolution number 4 is that the mayor and Mark Ritzer, P.E., Acting Director of Public Works and Acting Director of Parks, Recreation, and Conservation, are authorized and directed to designate $6,870.00 from the New York State DOT CHIPS funding for the purpose of purchasing 2 new tandem dump trucks for the Streets Department to replace truck number 65 and 64 from Fleet Maintenance Incorporated of West Seneca, New York, subject to the approval of the Corporation Council as to form. That's the difference in the trade-in.
Yeah.
No, that's,
No.
that's the,
Yeah, a different year, a newer year.
it's a new model year. So what we originally got approved for were 2024 dump trucks, but they've been pushed so far back that we're now gonna get 2025 models.
So it's an increase.
Yeah, so it's the difference for the new model year.
Okay. I almost believe that this might need to be looked at to be worded different, because the way it reads to me is that you're getting 2 new trucks
It
for
does.
$6,870. I would have bought more than that.
I questioned him in the hallway about
So,
that.
I think
Maybe add
it,
additional, does
an
additional,
increase,
Jen, can we make that change on the resolution?
it just, that's why I stopped reading it when I did, because it just didn't make sense.
Would you be comfortable with the, using additional or increasing?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Resolution number 5 is whereas a minimum of 6 members of the council concur that it is impractical to take bids for the purchase of 17 traffic signal controllers for the traffic division due to the fact that there is one distributor in the area. Therefore, be it resolved that the mayor, Mark Retzer, Jr., P.E., Acting Director of Public Works and Acting Director of Parks, Recreation, and Conservation, be and they hereby are authorized and directed to purchase for the traffic division from New England Traffic Solutions 17 traffic signal controllers for installation at 17 different city intersections for a total not to exceed $79,662.00, subject to the approval of the Corporation Council as to form. Do you have anything you wanted to add about that, or?
So these traffic controllers run the same software as the, new intersections at Washington Street. So that's why there's only one distributor in our area for them, because we want to get the exact same ones that they have on Washington Street.
Any other questions?
Where's the funding coming from?
Chips.
Chips.
Where's that coming out of?
I don't know that.
I think the backup may have, did the backup have the invoice?
Yeah,
They're in Glastonbury, Connecticut. And if you're looking, there should be information on it in the backup for it. As well as all of the intersections that would be upgraded.
Okay, any other questions? So So resolution number 6 is briefly what, the same resolution we always have for the Jamestown City Council adopting a resolution number 200201C03 that effective immediately and until further notice instituted a hiring freeze for the city of Jamestown. Whereas on November 20th, 2006, the Jamestown City Council adopted resolution number 2006-11B17 to extend the freeze to any change in employment from part-time to full-time status. Where it has become apparent that within the Department of Public Works, an effort to effectively manage the city's day-to-day responsibilities in a cost-effective manner, it is in the city of Jamestown's best interest to lift the hiring freeze for a certain position. Now therefore be it resolved that effective immediately, the Jamestown City Council hereby suspends the hiring freeze instituted in that first resolution and authorizes the filling of the following position due to the essential nature of the position. A laborer position in the Department of Public Works. And for clarity, this position is a vacancy, it's not an addition. Any questions or comments? Okay, that's it for finance.
Okay, very good. Marie, wanna do housing now?
Sure, and I do wanna apologize for not allowing you to ask a question. I didn't know I should have a question, and I do apologize for that. We had a lot to cover, and it was specifically to do with demolitions. I will probably start and then turn it over to the Director of Development. We did have a very comprehensive discussion of the demolition process. We do have a very graphic highlighted list of 84 plus one additional home that is going to be demolished. The list designates potentials that have need of further inspection. There are also those that are in green are undergoing environmental reviews. We have some who are potentials, some listed as needing further inspections, and some require court intervention as we don't have necessarily control of the property and we have to go through court to get a court order to demolish. And I'll turn it over to Crystal to go over the others because we do have one other list that lists the entire grouping of demolitions between 2019 and 2023. The emergency demolitions and the completions, and they were highlighted, and that's just about a full page covering all of the ones that were completed to date. So I'll let you go over the demolition contract process and this Telemi, the new, I think, since it's very new and the process and the software, I'll let you explain that.
Sure. So, as Marie mentioned, this sheet here with all the fun colors identifies there's 84 and there's another property that we identified earlier today. And I will check in on the status of 103 Willard. It is privately owned. And so we have been trying to pursue action by the owner, but again, it might be one that we have to add and seek a court order to do. So I'll look into that. As for this list, the yellow highlight are all potentials, and we either, again, need to seek a court order or they need further investigation just to determine that demolition is the right course of action. As for the green highlights, that just identifies properties that are somewhere in the process of demolition. So the one question I had was, what does OTB mean? It's not off-track bedding. It is out to bid. So there are some that have been out to bid. There are some that have been identified and dates assigned for when the contractors are have indicated that they will be completing demolitions. We've got one that, I think just one, two that have come down, and then some environmental reviews in process. So lots of moving parts. I mentioned this in the housing committee meeting because this is a question that comes up often. The same companies that typically bid on demolitions are the same companies that typically have that excavating equipment. So they are likely doing excavation, paving, concrete work throughout the warmer months, and then now this time of year is when they start to transition over to doing more of the excavation type stuff and demolitions. So we'll see a lot more demolitions this time of year than we would be able to see during the summer months, just because they're tied up with their equipment doing other work. So it's just something for everybody to kind of keep in mind. And then I think that's kind of it on that, unless there are any specific questions, and I'll move on to the next sheet that looks like this, and it's the status update from the land bank. So let's see. The top part is just sort of a bullet point list of where they're at and what they had to do kind of from where they started to now. As you can see under ARPA funds, and this is also something that I mentioned in Housing Committee, and that they had presented when they came to us seeking the ARPA contract. They were successful in leveraging those ARPA funds for demolition, so they did get additional funding through Homes and Community Renewal. So that's why you'll see some properties have been identified for HCR, some are ARPA, and it's all just going to depend on the specific circumstances. Going over to the Ptolemy worksheet here. So this platform is one of the items that they had requested in their proposal. And this platform is something that we also, the city also is in the process of having built out. It's a online platform that's interactive that will allow us to share data. It will interact with GovPilot once that is up and running. It'll be able to pull data. It's basically a data centralization platform. So it will pull data from whatever various programs and information that we want it to pull from. So we'll be able to click on an address and select all of the different data points that we want to see, and we can get information on utilities, maybe DPW projects that might be in the works, police incidents, are there any HUD projects going on there? Is it slated for demolition? Are they behind in taxes? So it'll pull all of those various different things into one place. So that will help us make decisions about projects going forward a lot easier. It'll help us strategize a lot easier and more efficiently. So this particular part of the Ptolemy that they're showing is the part of the program that allows them to manage their projects, essentially. And then the last sheet is this one with the blue and the red. And so this is a list of the demolitions that have occurred. There's 45 on there. I'm sorry that I didn't write that down, but you can see they're the ones that are in red for E.
There's 41. So that's what I was gonna ask you, does it not include these ones that were in the ARPA funds? Cause they're not on there.
It does not include.
No,
the
these
one
are
in Fairmont.
completed.
Pardon?
These are already completed.
Yeah, the Fairmont one's not on
Right.
there.
That's what, you say there's 45, I count 41. Are
I
you,
mean-
is your 45 including
Oh,
the
you know
4 in the
what?
ARPA?
I
That's
may
what
have looked at, yes, thank you. I did pull that off, yep. Okay, that helps. But anyway, these are our demolitions that have been completed between 2019, 2023. The ones that say E for emergency, those all are emergency demolitions for various reasons. Typically, it tends to be fire. And then another point that I wanted to make sure that I highlighted is we have historically had, we have restrictions in the amount of demolition funds that we have available to us. So the city has, I think, historically allocated around $100,000 a year for the past several years. I'm not sure how far back that dates, but we've usually had around $100,000 at the beginning of the year, and we have blown through that every single year. And then with our CDBG demolition funding, we've talked about this before, we're limited in the actual dollar amount that we're able to allocate from CDBG for demolition. So that's also usually around $100,000. With the large fires that we've had in the past couple of years, Jamestown Royal Upholstery, Crawford was $100,000 just for the emergency demolition part of that, which, you know, as we know, it still is in the process of being cleaned up, which thankfully that will be EPA assisting us with that. But, you know, all of these emergency demolitions comes from CDBG and the city. So when we can't get to other demolitions that are planned, it's because we don't have the money. And yes, there are delays due to timing of the year, as we discussed, but I just think it's important to kind of manage expectations in that regard, that if we had the money, we would be able to move a little bit quicker, but we've really been strapped, as this council knows, over the past few years, just due to the serious fires that we've had.
Just to add, you did indicate at the meeting that it's about $33,000 for the average demolition. So if you look at the three that are homes and community renewal funding through the land bank, that's over almost $100,000 right there. That they are actually taking, with the money we gave, $100,000 that the city will not have to pay for those three demolitions. We did actually, I think it was Councilman Reynolds asked, if we were to demolish all of the properties right now that are in the pipeline, it would be over $2.7 million to demolish all the properties. And we talked about enforcement and code enforcement. The two in training should be on board by December 1st, and hopefully that will help with dealing with some of these problem houses. And currently there were 900 open cases in the Department of Development around that, that they're looking at. And we mentioned that targeted sweeps haven't been done in a number of years. A lot of questions, I'm not sure if other council members want to know why code enforcement officers can't just drive down the street and see a property and decide that they're going to go in and start looking at it. They can't. That really has to start with a complaint either from a neighbor, from a council member, or someone else to say there's a problem. Go into the website, put your complaint in, or call DOD. It's preferable to do it on the website. It's very easy once you get used to it. It's a little bit easier than it used to be. But they do look into those and they do put them on the list and they don't disappear. That's one way to keep track of it. If you call, sometimes things get lost. If you put it into the website link, it will be followed through and they'll have it assigned to someone and it will get looked at. But they cannot go onto the property without permission, so they can only do what they can see from the street. So just to understand that just because a code enforcement officer sees something, they can't necessarily just go in and target that property for code enforcement.
Crystal, what's the starting on this list at 52 Charles?
I don't remember why I put it there, but I think it was just a mental note to myself.
Okay.
If I remember right, it was one that we were hoping that we were gonna be able to save.
Okay.
But it's really just the roof has been open for so long that we just can't.
Is that the music store? Yeah, it's pretty rough shape. It's been exposed for at least 3 years.
Yeah.
Maybe 4.
I have a question for Chris. How many homes on this, or addresses, homes, properties on this list are city owned or city has control of?
We have control of a lot of them, so everything that is already in green, and then I can get you that number specifically, but as you can see, the ones that are in yellow that are potentials, most of them we don't have control over yet, and that's why they're yellow, because we've got to confirm that we definitely want to demolish them and then move forward with court orders, which takes.
Yeah. And to reference that 2.7 million, it was just for an illustration point of view that if you had a windfall of $3 million come to the city for demolition, you were indicating that it would still take 4, maybe possibly 5 years for all of this list to be exhausted. So even though the money may come someday, it's gonna take a long, long time to clean it up.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, it could take probably 5 years. It would take several, you know, we could put together a hopeful 3-year plan and, you know, kind of divvy them up and try to figure out how many could a contractor or contractors get done within that period of time, but, you know, as we've discussed, there are so many other factors that go into it, that it would be a multi-year process.
And just to also answer the question about reclamation of anything inside these homes, once it really goes to demolition, it's the property of the contractor to dispose of everything, so it would be difficult to reclaim anything out of these homes. You'd have to do it before it was turned over for demolition, and then you've got liability in terms of people going in and taking things out. So there could be another hidden cost if somebody were to try to do that. I guess the land bank has talked about trying to do it, but it would take a storage facility, it would take skilled people to go and do it.
Yeah, we would love to do something similar to like a Buffalo reuse or reuse action, if you're familiar with those, where a organization comes in ahead of time, does the demo work, and salvage, you know, architectural, you know, pieces and floorboards and things that in these older homes that we have that you just can't replicate. But right now, we don't have resources, capacity, manpower, physical location. But that is a goal eventually, you know, it's at some point in time. It's something that we've been talking about, something that we certainly would look for the opportunities, should there be funding available out there at some point.
Some of the architecture around here, you'll never be able to replicate again. That talent doesn't even exist.
Yeah.
I needed a radiator for my own home and I wanted to match it to the other ones. I got it out of Chicago and
Yeah.
it shipped here years ago.
Yeah.
But if we were to have a program like that, if someone wanted, you know, a matching doorknob possibly in
Yeah.
their house
Yeah.
or baseboard moldings or whatever, we could get it from a program like that. I believe it's Tim Desmond, recoups a lot of materials like that and has an extremely large barn or something maybe down in Frewsburg. He occasionally opens it up, people can go down there and buy stuff, so I would love to see a program like that going forward, because we end up tearing these places down and there's all that history and architecture and stuff inside that's basically going into a landfill.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, we're paying landfill costs. We could save on landfill costs if we were able to recoup that. It's very, very sad to see our history and the blood, sweat, and tears of that talent be dumped in a landfill.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
I have one question, Crystal. I just did a quick analysis of the demolitions from 2019 to 2023. You were employed by the DOD in 2019, became the acting director at some point then in 2019?
Yeah, November.
Okay. Do you know how we managed to demolish 29 buildings in 2019 and only 19 in the 3 years following that? Can you explain
Well,
it?
money, as we mentioned,
We had that
we
one?
blew through all of our money with, Jamestown Royal was over $100,000. 119 or 115 to 117 East 2nd Street, 117, 119, whatever that number is. That was over $80,000 just in the emergency demo costs, plus stabilization of the buildings on either side, which was, and I don't recall exactly how much went into both of those, but it was significant. Crawford, and then we had, let's see, Thayer, I'm looking at the wrong sheet. There were 2 properties on Thayer Street when we had the 3 that burned down. And I can get you all the costs for that, Brent.
Okay. The one on East 2nd Street, that was in 2019. So that was part of the 29 properties.
Yeah, it was like December of 2019. And then we had a pandemic where we didn't do anything for a year and a half. So, the other part of that is we also had a contract with the land bank where we were actually administering demolitions and they provided the funding. So that was a factor in that as well.
Well, part-time.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
I have one question for you.
Sure.
222 Hazard, 227 Hazard on here, it's actually 233, I believe, it's the one that my friend.
I think that's another one. Yep.
Is there any time frame on when that's actually gonna be like?
We just found out 2 to 3 weeks ago that the property owner, their insurance actually will not cover the removal. So they, and I don't quite understand how this works, but they paid like $1,500 towards the cost of the emergency demolition that the city paid for. And so now we are looking at, the city is gonna have to go back and do the cleanup ourselves because their insurance, they gave them some reasons, but they're not going to pay for it.
That's 227 is an occupied house,
Okay.
so it's actually 233.
Thank you.
I don't wanna see somebody go knock down the door of the wrong house when this actually happens.
It's happened before.
I've heard that.
The wrecking ball comes out front.
Come home from work and you're.
Thankfully, it is already on the ground.
Okay, is that it for Tulsa?
I just wanted to, quick conversation, I know it's a long night for everyone, but I just wanted to bring something up. Last week, the assessor came and presented to us, and something kind of struck me when she was speaking that we, in the city, we had one home built last year. And I was thinking this week about, immediately came to me about the Country View Estates up by East Virginia Boulevard. So I began to dig into that a little bit, and Country View Estates have been sitting there for 20 years. There's roughly 15 lots up there that are for sale by the city. They range, price range from $13,000 to $16,000. And I'm just wondering if we can do a better job at marketing these lots. Why are we not marketing the lots other than the city website? Is there a possibility that we could reduce the cost of these lots? Like I said, they're somewhere between 13 to 16,000. Could we reduce these lots by maybe half and attract more people there? I mean, I talked to the assessor about it. I actually called her and started talking to her about this. And I said, what if we, and as crazy as it sounds, what if we sold these lots for $1 to get people to build houses on them? And I know some of them there were stipulations on how small or how large you could build on them. Could we re-examine those size mandates? Put stipulations if we did sell them cheap that developers wouldn't be allowed to come in and buy them. It had to be an individual. They had, say, roughly 3 years to build on them. If they didn't build in 3 years, then it would go back to the city, especially if we sold it for very, very cheap. So, and then the other question I had was, is the 10-year abatement program still exist on building houses in the city? So, maybe in the future, you and I could discuss privately how we can market these lots better. I know the big push right now is green energy. We could even potentially take some of these lots and we could showcase that technology up there. Maybe even build a spec house that's green energy and push that out forward. So it's just sad that these lots have been sitting here for 20 years at that price range. We're not marketing them at all. They're just sitting on our website and no one's pushing this area to be developed. So maybe we can have a private conversation later on what that would look like and how we could push that forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to add to that, we just actually had an individual reach out to us who is interested in building there. And so we just kind of had this internal conversation about can we reduce, they would like to build a smaller footprint house. So rather than the larger required, they were looking at, I think it was 1,200 or so square feet. And I understand that, you know, at the time that this was developed, the intention was to be able to recoup the cost of the infrastructure that went into it. But with the cost of materials now and what the taxes would be and what it would be valued at, it certainly would still offset. And so that's something that we just, I think it was just last week that we were having this conversation, and everyone, department heads that had this conversation agreed that we should absolutely look at doing that. We didn't talk about the idea of reducing the cost of the lots themselves. I think that's a good idea too, so, yeah,
I
I'd be
asked
happy
the
to.
assessor, I said, this sounds crazy, but
Yeah.
if we sold these lots for $1, would it hurt the assessment process? She said, absolutely not. Obviously, someone's still gonna build there, we would have to discuss, you know, sizes, like you said, possibly smaller homes. But I just think that we're looking at a wasted resource here by these empty lots just sitting there doing nothing. And for 20 years, they really haven't been marketed other than just sitting on the city website.
You know, there was a big push, about that time, 20 years ago or so, we built quite a few up there, and there seemed to be kind of a rush, and then it kind of slowed down after a few years, but.
Yeah, I pulled up a map, there's 15 that are still available for sale. One was sold, I don't know how long ago it's sold on here. It was 16, so, it's just sad to see those sitting empty, not marketed, and if we have to sell them for $1 to get houses built, to get revenue from taxes, then we should be doing that.
Yeah, they add to the tax base.
Absolutely.
Move on to public safety.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have the same resolution. Finance head, sending fire investigator Sean Schilling, Adam Aiken, Brian Saunders, and the Rick's group to the fire arts investigation seminar on November 14th to November 16th. That's the resolution we have. We have a special event permit application, Veterans Day service, to be held on Saturday, November 11th, from 10:45 until 11:15 at the corner of 3rd and Main Street. This is an annual event. And we have a streetlight request for Parkdale Avenue. And we also had a streetlight request last week at our meeting that I took a look at on Van Buren Street. There are 2 poles in a row that do not have any streetlights. There is a light down on Sturgis Street at the intersection. Jen, if you could forward to the BPU poll number 38255, have them investigate that and come back to us next month, I'd appreciate it. And with that, is there anything else for public safety? Okay.
Public Works, Randy, anything there?
Well, everything we had was covered in finance, so kind of went over that, unless anybody here or on the committee has anything they'd like to say.
I was buying the 2 trucks for
Yeah.
$620.
Yeah.
Good deal.
Good deal. Okay, any questions then?
I had to ask Mark out in the hallway, what's with that? I gotta go there.
This goes up.
Also a hiring freeze for that. Labor position. Okay. Anything else? Otherwise, you're up.
Okay, just a couple updates for folks. First and foremost, the school district is installing the bus patrol cameras on the school buses. So we'll have some more information out once that's complete on how that process will work, and some more information for the public. Once those are complete, those cameras are installed, there is by law a warning period where individuals that do pass the bus will receive warning notices. That lasts about a month, and then after that they will start to issue tickets. So we're just finalizing the rest of those kind of details with bus patrol, police, courts, and everyone else. So more information to come on how those work. But I can tell you, just having driven in the morning, I've watched a lot of cars pass buses when they shouldn't, and it's wild to see.
How many buses were they outfit on here, did you
Do
say?
you remember the number?
I can't remember, but it's gonna be all the fleet, I believe.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Been riding the buses a lot in my other job. The bus drivers talk a lot about how many times we were talking about on the
Yep.
bus ride to Buffalo, and he said it's terrible how many people just zip on by. They honk their horn. He says, I honk my horn at them, they won't stop. They don't. And it's just not a good situation. It's too bad people don't. Maybe now with a little fine, they'll follow along.
Quite a big fine, actually. So.
Oh, yeah.
The other thing to note is that we are in the final stretch of converting over the code enforcement software to GovPilot. So there will be once that process is finally occurred, we'll do a presentation to City Council on entering those code enforcement actions online. The platform will look a little bit different, but pretty much have the same type of action. We'll also shortly be bringing DPW underneath the platform as well. So using kind of a work order system. So you can report not just code enforcement, but you can report out street lights. So we've connected kind of BPU on that, as well as a bunch of other issues that might exist in the city. So traffic signs that don't work, street lights, those types of things. So we're working through that process, and hopefully we'll have that squared away soon. The MyGov platform that we currently use is kind of reaching its end of shelf life, and so we've got to be forced to migrate to a new platform, and so we've been working on the transfer of that. Accurate? Yeah. The other thing to note was last week you guys brought up the local law for the assessment, the senior exemption. So we did draft that. I believe that is in Mr. Armando's hands to review, but we'll send that all to you. Since it is a local law, it'll have to be introduced at the next work session, the next voting session, laid down, tabled, for a period of time, and then voted on the next one.
Did someone send a spreadsheet with that information? Cause I didn't see it.
The
I didn't put it
financials.
together in a spreadsheet, but I can and
Sure.
send it in the morning if you like.
Just the number of people that it was.
Number and the total amount.
Yes, that was calculated. I did see it, and we'll have Carol send it over.
Okay.
If you do have, I might have the email with me, if you need the numbers.
You can send it tomorrow, that's fine.
Yeah, just send it.
But that has been drafted, and then pending Mr. Armando's review of it, we'll have it ready to go for you guys. We'll probably send it out this week so that you guys can see it, and then if you're good with it, it's just a simple change to the actual amount. So.
Good news.
Yep.
Thank you.
And then the last thing to note is there are several street abandonments, paper street abandonments, that'll be coming up. There'll be a public hearing at the next, right before the voting session, the next one. But you all should have received that information, I think, from Jen regarding those.
Yep.
And that's it. That's all I got.
Okay.
You made it through. Congratulations.
Executive.
I've got nothing.
Right. Anything else? If not, meeting adjourned.